also talk about the challenges that their guards present.
Well, I mean, when you look at a team's style of play, you always have to look at, what is it that they do that that does present some sort of challenge. Every team does things that are challenging, whether it's defensively or offensively, that you have to figure out. I think in Syracuse's case, I think we're a pretty good three-point shooting team. And we've shot 670 three-pointers. They've shot like 900 and some. So obviously a big part of their offense is how many threes they can get up. I don't think they worry about how many are going to go in. I think they just worry about how many they're going to take. And so it's a challenge to whenever you play somebody like that to what are you going to do to offset that? And sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. We've played lots of teams over the years that they're going to shoot X number of threes, whether you play them great defensively or you don't play them great defensively. They're going to take that many. I mean, I remember Villanova, when we played Villanova all those years in our league, and we used to say, it doesn't matter whether you guard Villanova or you don't guard them. They're going to make X number. They're going to take X number. They're going to make X number. I mean, that's all there is to it. So, Syracuse's guards are really good at getting them. They're really good at getting those numbers. And we're going to have to offset that.
In the back.
Coach Kate Callow, Spectrum News in Syracuse. Watching ESPN last night, they were talking about the game tomorrow and showing what you guys did yesterday and saying that this might be the best game in the whole tournament. They're talking about this in the second round. What do you think about when you hear that they're saying it's not going to be just the best game, it could be the best game of the entire tournament?
There's already been a couple really good games, I think, and I'm sure there's a bunch of good games coming up. Sometimes maybe they get the impression that because it's two teams that score a lot of points, that kind of play a certain style that's up and down, that it lends itself to maybe being that. And I think that's a positive statement in the sense that that happens quite a bit on the men's side. There's a lot of 1 versus 8 or 1 versus 9. Whoever wins that game, that's a tough game to get to the regionals. And it's supposed to be that way. It's not supposed to be easy, So I hope it's as good a game as everybody says. That says quite a bit about maybe where we are, in the development, the growth of the game.
Right here.
Hey, Coach. In the past couple of years, Coach Hillsman obviously had some great players brought in, tremendous success. But as it goes, every couple of years, you got to replenish. When you look at last year's loss, like Butler and all the players he's losing this year, moving forward with Coach Kuhn in the program, how would you expect him and the Syracuse program to respond next year and down the road as far as maintaining success once all these players we see up here today are gone?
I think that's the challenge for every coach. There's been a lot of programs over the years that have had great success and have had a difficult time building on that success or finding a way to sustain it over a long period of time. One of the programs that, for instance, like Notre Dame, one of the things that's really impressive about them is they've been able to attract good players, graduate a lot of good players, and then still stay in the top 5 programs in the country. And that's really the secret. I mean, So getting to the Final Four last year obviously is a huge step forward for a program that had never been that far before. And getting back there is going to be a lot harder than they think, because I remember when we got there for the first time in 1991, it took us another 4 years to get there. So it takes a lot. It takes a lot to maintain it. It takes a lot to add to it. It takes a lot to year after year after year. You got to keep getting, the kind of players that can make you better and better and better. And they certainly have all the things in place to be able to do that. And what you want to see is more programs get to the point where each year, they're going to be, maybe they're not an 8 seed this year. Maybe they're better than that. I don't know. But if every year you can count on a program being there, then that's what this particular game, women's basketball really needs right now.
But knowing what you know of Coach P with his competitiveness and his combativeness, he's got some momentum going. Is that a correct assessment? What you see?
Yeah. I think all those teams that were in the Final Four last year are in the same position. Syracuse, Washington, Oregon State. Where they are 4 years from now will really tell. I know that coaching's got a lot to do with it, and recruiting is a huge part of it. And recruiting's fickle. Being able to year in, year out have the kind of recruiting class to make you stay there. It's not easy, but once you get it going, like you said, then it makes the job a little bit easier.
I'm going to go in the back.
Coach Stephen Fonte from Channel 9 in Syracuse. Two-part question for you, kind of along the same lines of Lindsay's question, just in regards to, you guys graduated a tremendous senior class. Are you pleasantly surprised with how your team has stepped up this year to keep it going? And then the second part of that question, be it from Syracuse, how much do you keep in touch with Brianna Stewart? How much is she still a part of this program, even though she's gone now?
Well, for not having the best backcourt in the country, we've had a pretty good year. We have a great press department, and we have a great communications department. Not as good as Syracuse is, otherwise we'd be putting out things like we're the best backcourt in the country. So for us to graduate the 3 guys that we graduated, and then to have happen what happened this year, I don't think any one of us could have predicted any of that. When the season started, if you'd have said, this is where you're going to be March 19th, I would have said, highly unlikely. So how much they've changed, how much they've grown, and you take a team like Syracuse, a lot of the guys that are on the court for them, played a lot of minutes last year in the championship game. Our guys have had to learn on the job this year, and for them to be able to do what they did, I think, is a credit to them. They learned a lot from that experience of being on the team with those 3 great players that graduated. And as far as Stewie's concerned, one of the problems that you have with women's basketball players is that when they become professionals, they spend so much of their time overseas. So they're not around as much as you like to have them around. They're not as available as you like to have them available. Like Morgan Tuck was around a lot this year, so she did some of our games on the radio. She came to a lot of games. Sue didn't play this year overseas, so she was around a lot. So Stewie's just getting started, so she spends a lot of time in another world. But fortunately, we stay in touch, and she's really good about staying in touch. And her injury kind of got everybody more in touch. Let's put it that way. And it was great to see her at the South Carolina game, and I'm sure I'll be seeing her sooner rather than later.
Okay, 14 minutes left on the open locker room. Coach, we're going to go right down here.
Geno, were you able to watch Temple last night?
I did see some of it, yeah.
I'm just wondering, what was it like watching that game and, you know, when you're watching, you know, not only is it a league team, it's Tanya.
Yeah.
The second part is 2 hard losses for the league, both at the buzzer for USF and Temple. And
Yeah.
when you're trying to grow the league, how frustrating, or whatever the proper word is that you want to use is that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I felt for her. You know, that's it reminded me of our Clemson game. You know, here, you know, we win the league. We're trying to get some recognition for the Big East. We're trying to prove to everybody that we're pretty good. You know, 1988, 89, 90. You know, you're like, you're just trying to win a game in the NCAA tournament, and we get a shot at the buzzer, and it's halfway in, and it doesn't go in, and we lose. It's frustrating, and it's heartbreaking for the seniors on that team, and they played a really good team. I mean, you know, we're in this part of the world, we don't get a chance to see, you know, West Coast teams as much, but I told everybody that would listen when Oregon hired Kelly Graves, I said, you know, they're going to dominate the Big Ten the Pac-12 in a couple of years. I'm not surprised that they're as good as they are with the freshmen that they have. And those freshmen made some big plays last night. So they lost to a really good team. It's not like they, you know, coughed one up to a bad team. So knowing Tanya, you know, they'll be back. She's got the program on solid ground, and I just felt bad for her.
And for the league, like I said, you know, Jose lost and was very similar, you know,
Yeah.
had the big lead, they tie it and, you know, let it get away.
It's what happens when you have a lot of players that are not in that situation enough times. You know, South Florida, same thing. You know, they graduated 3 starters from last year's team that maybe, you know, had more experience, had a better understanding of how to handle those situations. It happens a lot in the NCAA tournament, you know, and our league is, you know, it is what it is. I mean, it's going to get better little by little, and those games that were lost yesterday, they'll be won in the future. They'll be won next year, you know.
Coach, could you speak to what Kia Nurse has meant to this team this year, her in particular, how she's kind of progressed from her freshman year to where she is now?
You know, when Kia was a freshman, it's funny that the two of them were here, sitting up here, because I always want to give the guys that are coming back a little bit of benefit of the doubt, you know. So when we started the season that year, I started Sanaya Chong and Mariah Jefferson, and we went out to Stanford, and I think Sanaya had like 20 points in that game, and the guy she was guarding had like 40. So we thought we needed to make a little bit of a change when we got home, you know, and we lost that game. And it was the first game Sanaya had ever started, I think, you know, and we've only lost 1 game in Sanaya's career, and it's the first game she ever started. And when we got back, you know, we made a little bit of a change, and we put Kia in the starting lineup. And it's not because she did anything differently, or that, you know, Sanaya was responsible for that loss. Not at all. But there was something about Kia that I thought gave us a certain edge, you know, defensively, and just an aggressive mentality that she had. And that's been there since day one. And it was a real struggle for her in October this year and November. Really, really, really big struggle for her, because all of a sudden, without Mariah Jefferson, the ball's in her hands a lot. And that's not easy. It's not easy. And she was a little bit confused about her role. You know, Coach wants me to be a leader on the team. Coach wants me to handle the ball. Coach wants me to run the offense. I'm supposed to make shots. I'm supposed to guard the other team's best player. There's a lot thrown at her early on, and took her a little bit of time. And she's a tough kid. Tough kid. And you saw yesterday, she's never lost a game at UConn as a starter. That says something.
Okay, Coach, we have time for one more down here.
Forgive me if you've already talked about this, but the rivalry with Syracuse, do you miss these regional games and rivalries? Do you want to get more of that going? And how do you do,
We tried to, but they weren't very accommodating when we wanted to play them. I think any coach, if they had their druthers, would much rather play teams that are familiar to the fans in the area, teams that everybody knows, they recognize, there's a history, and it's a shame that a lot of that went away, It's unfortunate, but that's kind of the world that we live in. So we've tried, and I think we're able to do a lot of that. Try to create new rivalries, but that takes a long time. The South Florida thing, that takes a while. Notre Dame became one through our Big East connections, and Rutgers was, and now that's gone. Providence was a while back, and that's gone. Louisville was becoming, well, we played them twice in the national championship, and that's kind of gone, and now we're reviving that starting next year. So we've tried to hold on. We've tried, Same with Rutgers. Yeah, we want to play. And then when it's time to sign a contract, no. So we're trying to keep those things going, but it's not as easy as you would think it would be.
So Syracuse is not, have you approached Syracuse? What have they said? What you're dealing with them about playing them every year?
We said, we'll come up and play you guys, and they said no.
When was this?
Last year.
does that still bother you, the whole Brianna Stewart thing?
No.
They didn't give her the home game?
No, it doesn't bother me. People say no all the time. Doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother me at all. I mean, everybody's got to make their own schedule the way they want to make it. Everybody's got to play who they want to play to make their program whatever they need to make it. So, we want to try to play. I mean, you look at our schedule. Our non-conference schedule is the best in the country, bar none. Like, there's nobody that we won't play anywhere, anytime, no matter when. You say you got to play at midnight. I don't care. We'll play anybody. We'll go anywhere. And some teams are very accommodating. They can't wait because they know if you play us it's going to be on national television. If you beat us, you've done something really good. And some people go, no, I don't want any part of that. What are you going to do, make them play you?
Did you guys ask you to play this year or next year? Any further discussions about?
We don't ask twice. We ask once.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay, that's enough.